Service agreement. Jason?
Good morning, Jason Taylor, Director of Engineering. Before you is the inspection agreement for 96th Street. This is a federally funded project that is managed through NDOT. We have been performing in-house inspection on all of our federal aid projects, but due to some recent changes, we're needing to get an agreement with a consultant, American Structure Point, to finish out the project and close it out so that we're in compliance with all federal requirements and NDOT's requirements. This is a contract that will see this project through to the very end and close out, which is estimated to be after the grass growth and germination. It would be in the spring. But I'd be happy to answer any specific questions you may have about it.
We still on schedule for November?
Yeah, right now the opening is set for this Friday morning. The weather is controlling that right now, and as of last night, the asphalt plant broke down.
Oh,
We're
man.
still on schedule. But so early November is still a go.
Okay. Excellent. Any other questions for Jason? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Motion.
I didn't hear a motion. Is there a motion?
Motion by Jeff.
Is there a second? Motion by Jeff, second by Jason. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Aye.
Worry there for a second. Item 7 is request to declare certain city property as surplus. You want to hear for this one?
I'd be happy to
Okay.
do it on behalf of Tabitha Miller. For the record, Chris Greisel, attorney for the city of Fishers. The Department of Fleet has presented a resolution for surplus for a potential and subsequent trade-in. The vehicle is a 2005 Ford Explorer, so as the board knows, the first step is surplusing this vehicle so that we can attempt to trade it in for a subsequent purchase.
Any
If there's
questions?
I'm happy to answer them.
Questions for Chris? Seeing none, is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Jason, second by Jeff. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion
Aye.
carries. Next item is request to approve City Hall window and door replacement. Mr. Steiner?
Yeah, good morning. Eric Steiner, Assistant Director of Operations for Public Works. So as part of our 2020 facilities capital budget, one of our top priorities was to replace all City Hall exterior windows and doors around the building, around the facility. These windows and doors are original to the building and are well beyond their life expectancy. We're going to go back in with aluminum double pane windows and doors. The current windows require plastic over the winter season as the windows are extremely drafty and not energy efficient. We received 3 quotes from the following. Heartwood Enterprises for $239,788.09. Roberts Glass and Service for $271,900. And the third one from Glenroy Construction for $425,000. If approved, we recommend moving forward with Heartwood Enterprises, and this money has already been budgeted, and they will start work in the spring of 2021. And we'll entertain any questions that anybody may have.
What was the difference between the highest and the lowest bid?
It was around, what was it, around $200,000, $190,000.
How do you get that wide of a variation on something like this? I guess the reason I ask, are we confident that the lowest bidder
We
understands
are.
fully what the project requires?
We are. We did a pre-bid with these companies, went through specific details on what we were looking for. The 2, Roberts Glass and Heartwood, were only about 20, 30, 40 grand apart. And we feel very confident. We used Heartwood on the city services earlier this year to replace those
That
windows.
just seems like a really widespread.
Yeah.
Timing for this project?
Spring of 2021. So as soon as the weather breaks.
You don't want to take Chris's window out in January?
Maybe his, we could.
Yeah. Any additional questions for Eric? Seeing none, is there a motion? Is there a second?
Motion.
Motion by Jason, second by Jeff. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Next, we have a request to approve terms for 2021 renewal of stop-loss insurance with HCC Life Insurance Company. Ethan?
Good morning, Ethan Lee, Director of Human Resources. I'm here to present the board's request to approve terms for the 2021 stop-loss insurance for the city's health plan. HCC Life Insurance Company currently provides the city's stop-loss coverage, which is also known as reinsurance, to our health plan. Stop-loss insurance provides protection against catastrophic high-cost claims that may exceed the specific deductible. In our case, our specific deductible is $300,000 per individual claim. This type of coverage is in place to, again, ensure that any catastrophic claims above that particular deductible do not upset our financial reserves with the city's self-funded health plan. Our designated benefits broker, H.J. Spear, as they do every year, evaluates the renewal for stop-loss coverage, also shops other providers for that coverage. H.J. Spear, our provider, our benefits broker, recommends that we stay with HCC for the 2021 plan year based off of those results. This year's renewal would require amendment to our current agreement with HCC, which would be for a new one-year term. There would be a 12.18% increase to our premium from the current year. This number is higher than we might normally find. However, with that higher premium, HCC agrees to no laser limits. A laser is a practice of assigning a higher specific deductible to an individual with a known condition that is likely to exceed the specific deductible. Again, it was $300,000 for our plan. This is, in my 13 years, the first time we haven't seen a laser, or at least that I can recall. For example, we have two current lasers for $400,000 and over $500,000 in 2020. So to have no lasers would be significant and less of a liability for the city's health plan. So not only does that HCC agree to no laser limits in 2021, but they would also agree to no laser limits in 2022 if we were to renew with them for that year as well. There would also be a rate cap in 2022, again, if we decided to renew with HCC at that time, of no more than a 50% increase to the rates at that time. So given the potential for these high-dollar laser claims being off the books, we do recommend that this is a value proposition to pay that higher premium with that 12% increase, and would recommend accepting that proposal. Again, this is seeking your approval. We would come back with the actual agreement and amendment for you to sign once our city's legal had a chance to review that. So, are there any questions at this time?
Any questions for Ethan? Seeing none, is there a motion? Is there a
Motion.
second? Second by Jeff. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ethan. All right, we will move into the cell tower portion of this meeting.
We are going to go to item 10, Mayor.
We are going to go back to item 10?
We are.
Okay. Before we move to the cell towers, we will entertain a request to approve a special purchase of electronic storage from Tracy Gaynor, IT Director.
Good morning. For the record, Tracy Gaynor, IT Director for the City of Fishers. This is a sort of a late special purchase. Apologies for bringing it to the board kind of last minute. But due to some savings in this year's operating budget, combined with HP's annual incentivization, they do deep discounts in October because their fiscal year ends every year at the end of October. There's an opportunity for the city to receive some really deep discounts on some additional storage. This would, we've been working on consolidating and removing old storage at our primary data center. It is end of life and has been out of support for some time. We've been using third-party support on it. This will allow us to consolidate instead of replacing one for the similar number of what we call a storage area network. This would be for a single consolidated larger device. This is through our normal HP vendor, which is an Indiana State QPA vendor, and this particular pricing is actually 42% steeper than the normal QPA rate is. So apologies, I literally just got the finalized numbers this morning and haven't had a chance to get them sent out to everyone, but this particular device would come in at $85,625. And for those that might care about the technical specifications, that is for 210 terabytes of raw storage and 17.2 terabytes of flash storage.
Any questions for Tracy? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Jeff, is there a second? Second by Jason, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks for getting it in, Tracy. All right, we will now move on to our conversations around small cell tower placements. Just a reminder for the folks in the audience or anyone listening, under federal law, this board has a limited area of consideration when we're discussing the placement of these towers. And I'd ask Chris Greisel, our city attorney, just for a quick reminder of what the things that this board can consider and what the things we cannot consider in deciding whether or not these are appropriate in their locations. So Chris, do you want to give everyone a quick refresher of that?
Yeah, happy to do that, Mayor. For the record, Chris Greisel, attorney for the city of Fishers. As the mayor mentioned, the city's regulatory authority is extremely limited and largely preempted by federal law. Under the Telecommunications Act of 1996, Congress tasked the FCC with creating rules for the implementation of telecommunications that were consistent with the act. The Telecommunications Act prohibits state and local governments from regulating the placement, construction, and modification of personal wireless service facilities on the basis of the environmental effects of radio frequency emissions to the extent that such facilities comply with the regulations contained within the Telecommunications Act. In Indiana, the placement of a small cell facility and the associated supporting structure in the public right-of-way is considered a permitted use, and it's exempt from local zoning review if the total height of the structure supporting the small cell facility does not exceed the greater of 50 feet measured from grade, or the height of any utility pole within 500 feet of that proposed cell facility plus an additional 10 feet. With respect to the construction, placement, or use of any small cell facility and the associated supporting structure, the city is strictly prohibited from limiting the placement of the small cell facility by minimum separation distances or maximum heights, imposing unreasonable requirements regarding the maintenance or appearance of the small cell facility and associated supporting structure, limiting the duration of any permit that is granted, prohibiting an applicant from locating a small cell facility, wireless support structure, or utility pole in a residential area. In accordance with Indiana law, the city's established a waiver process whereby telecommunication providers may seek to deploy small cell facilities in residential areas through the process of the city's Board of Public Works and Safety, which we're here to consider today. The act provides that the permit authority, which is the board, must establish a waiver process that addresses requests to install these new utility poles or wireless support structures within areas that we've designated as underground utility areas. On April 28, 2017, the board took action to adopt this waiver process and again amended that later on or around August 10th, 2020.
Thank you, Chris. And my understanding is we're pulling item 11, that's correct?
That's correct.
So
So
we
we're
will
starting
not
with
be
item
just-
number 12, which is the
Okay.
Gatewood community.
So we will start with a request to approve residential waiver to install small cell facilities in Gatewood. This is an item that was here previously, and we asked Verizon to take a look at several sites in this neighborhood, and Tammy is here to provide us an update on that.
For the record, Tammy Houston, Assistant Engineer. Before you, first is Gatewood. We first brought this to the board in late September. There were 4 locations at that time presented for approval. One of them was approved. That was 7221 Woodgate Drive. The other 3 were tabled to take a look at some additional locations. For some additional locations. The one at 7430, also 10916 and 11006. We went back with Verizon and spoke to them about those 3 locations. Verizon has requested that 7430 go be approved at the revised location that is shown at the intersection of Beach Drive and Oak Ridge Drive, as that was the location that was approved by the HOA during our HOA call. The location at 11006 on Lake Run Drive, the board had requested that that be moved to the north side of the road in order to be in the more open clearing area on the north side of Lake Run. Verizon was accepting of that change in location.
Just so I'm clear, Tammy, on 11006, on the graph that I'm looking at,
Yes.
the red dot represents where it was going to be located, and we do not have the revised dot.
If you look on page 3, there is a zoomed-in map that shows the revised location. They're fairly close together on
Okay.
the original map, so
All
I
right.
did a little zoomed area.
Gotcha.
So,
Yep, got it. Okay.
So Verizon was accepting of moving it to the north side of Lake Run Drive.
Okay.
The other location that was in question was 10916, that is shown on Gatewood Lane in the kind of roundabout area. The board had requested that it be moved more to the south to be closer to the intersection of Gate Circle, or I believe it's Gate Circle. Gate Circle. Verizon was not able to move it to that location as they were going to lose coverage of the residents along in Gatewood Lane and then kind of around Gate Circle. If they moved it to Gate Circle, the trees would impact their view to be able to service all of the areas that they had their service objective. I've added a couple of pictures that kind of show the area that is originally proposed by Verizon to be in those islands. The HOA has requested that if it is approved in that location, that it not have lights installed on it.
Okay.
So Verizon is asking that it is approved in the original location.
Is there anyone from Gatewood that would like to speak here today? Okay. At this time, is there any questions from the board for Tammy? I appreciate the efforts of Verizon. I think the move for 7430 in particular is a significant improvement.
Yes.
Concur.
Yep, I can hear you, Jeff. If there are no other questions, I guess I would entertain a motion to approve these revised locations.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Tammy. Next is a request to approve a residential waiver to install small cell facilities in Timber Springs.
Again, Tammy Houston, Assistant Engineer. There were 3 locations that were originally brought to the board, again, in the end of September for Timber Springs. One of the locations at 10840 Bittersweet Lane was approved at that time. The other 2 locations were asked to be looked at again by Verizon in order to have a little less impact on the surrounding homes. 7601 Timber Springs Drive North. The board had requested that it be moved to the west corner of that intersection because of the home on the southeast corner is kind of at an angle. I added some pictures to kind of show the impacts of that area. Verizon has asked that it be approved in the original location because if they moved it to the west, they stated that the trees in that area would impact their line of sight in order to be able to get the coverage objective that they are needing in that area. So those pictures are standing at the, on Timber Springs Drive North on the east side of Fox Run.
And I assume the other one was just not
Or
able to be
Forest
moved
Drive.
at all? The other tower?
The one at 7653, the request was to add, to move it to the north to the wooded lot along Timber Springs Drive South, to be more in, around the bend. They stated that if they moved it in that location, they would not be able to see down Timber Springs Drive South. And with the amount of trees in that area, it would also impact the objective to the north also.
Okay.
So Verizon is requesting that both of these be approved in the original proposed locations.
Great. Is there anyone here from Timber Springs that would like to speak on these cell locations? Seeing none, are there any questions for Tammy?
I think it's just a general comment. If I'm looking at 7601, I mean, it seems to me that the tree height across those lots all appear to be pretty consistent. And so I'm just astounded by the fact that a move of, 20 feet or 30 feet can have such a material impact on the quality of this service. And maybe I'm just not smart enough to understand it, but it's a little bit mind-blowing that kind of change is going to have such an impact because of tree height.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that comment.
Agreed, and even with 7653, I mean, the neighborhood, heavily wooded, I drove through it, I mean, the argument,
It's chock full of trees.
yes, I mean,
Yeah.
so the argument of tree height, it's just puzzling.
Yeah, the argument with 7653 is if they placed it up here around the bend here, they would not be able to see down this
The
street
line of
at
sight
all.
issue?
Yes,
So they went bi-directional.
right, so
That
their intent is to cover this area and then up in here, but by moving it to the north around the bend, they no longer can see these homes.
Yeah, I
Well-
understand that argument.
Yeah. Chris, a legal question. Because of the shot clock, since the permit's in, if we were to just continue to table and say this isn't satisfactory, at some point, we're gonna bump up against the shot clock. So we almost have to deny. Otherwise, I mean, even though we're open to continuing to work, but if we just keep tabling these, it's gonna become automatic.
That's correct. And Tammy, do you know what the shot clock is with respect to these two
For those in
locations?
for those in the audience or listening, the shot clock under Indiana law and federal law, they only give cities a specific number of days to consider this, and if we don't take action, then they automatically get the right to put them in. And so if we just keep tabling these and don't take official action, then you're gonna get a cell tower, whether you like it or not. And I don't remember how many, is it 45 days?
I was gonna say this, the original proposal was brought to the board 30 days ago, so it's to that 45.
Mayor,
Yep.
you said the shot clock and where they'll put it, so it's wherever they
Wherever they
want,
file their permit,
wherever they
yeah.
deem they want to. So it could be here in this particular case, or it could be anywhere.
It'd be whatever they file their permit
Okay, whatever
as.
the permit,
Yeah.
per the permit, okay.
If we don't take official
Right.
action to deny it. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I think using both of these are the movement and what we requested or why we tabled this and brought it back is very consistent with all the other neighborhoods and the approaches we've taken in those neighborhoods. And I'm not inclined to deviate from that at this point.
I tend to agree with you, Jeff. I think we're being consistent, and I haven't heard a rationale from Verizon that would, to Jeff's point, the whole place is full of trees. So I don't quite understand that logic. So I guess I would entertain a motion to either approve or deny at this point.
I'll make a motion to deny.
Motion by Jeff, is there a second?
So I'm clear that we've already approved the one,
10-840 we've approved.
and that location's fine, so we're denying the,
7601 and 7653.
okay, I will second.
So that's a motion by Jeff, second by Jason. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
And that
Aye.
was to deny both of them? I
That's correct.
apologize.
Okay. And just so I'm clear, Tammy, we're following up with all the contacts on this so that they're aware of the outcomes of these. Is that correct? So
Yeah.
if no one's here, they're still getting notified of what the result of the board meeting is?
We'll make sure that they, the HOAs that we have
Yeah,
contact
okay.
for.
Good. All right, next we're moving on to a request to approve a residential waiver to install small cell facilities in Fawnsbrook Woods.
Again, Tammy Houston, Assistant Engineer. Fawnsbrook Woods has 4 locations within their subdivision, 3 of which are up for consideration today for permit approval. Fawnsbrook does not have an HOA. We did send out letters to all of the residents within 200 feet of each of these proposed locations, and we did not receive any communication back from any of them. Excuse me. So as you can see, one of them is located at an intersection. The other 2 are not located at intersections, but on property lines. So Verizon is requesting that all 4 of them be, I apologize, for 3 of them to be approved.
So the 3 that are being in consideration, because there's 4 here,
Yeah, 8163, 12956, and 13013 are being considered for approval today.
okay. Is there anyone here from Fawnsbrook Woods that would like to speak? Okay. I have a couple comments here, Tammy. I don't particularly have an issue with 8163. It seems like a logical placement. 13013, I don't understand why that isn't, excuse me, 12956, why that isn't moved slightly down to the bend. So basically, I can't get my directions here.
Are you thinking across the street and to the west?
Not across the street, just
Just over?
the other
here?
way,
Oh, okay.
right there. I don't understand if there wasn't a way to split all those homes right in there on that wooded, it seems like a pretty large lot to be able to put it right in the middle of that section.
Okay.
Just from what I'm seeing here, I don't know. I would
Yeah,
think
from
there's-
conversations with Verizon, I would believe that this location was to serve down in here, and because of the bends, they may or may not be able to get these homes down here on the end, but that's something that I have to verify with Verizon.
Okay. I don't know what, Jason and Jeff, your thoughts are on that. And then also 13013 seems to be, that's, what I can't tell there, Tammy, is the home that's adjacent to it, the 2 there, one has a pool, it looks like, and the other one next to it, if this would be right in their line of sight or not. I understand on the other side, it looks like it works well, but I didn't know if, from a street level, whether that's,
It seemed it to me.
it seems like
Goes for front.
right in front of their 2 houses. And I assume here they're gonna make the same argument that it's because of the curves in the road that they can't move it?
More than likely, yes.
Have you noticed that, if you go down, I don't know, if you even shift down a little bit where the house with the pool and the house next to it to the south, that they're both driveways line up next to each other? And whether you could put it in between those 2 driveways?
There is a tree in that location. I'd have to look to see once if there is anything else.
Gotcha.
I can propose that to Verizon, though.
Other comments or questions from the board?
Scott, I concur with 12956 and your suggestion on that. It certainly, I mean, notwithstanding, whatever line of sight issues they have on 13013, but it certainly seems like there's a better spot for that.
Yeah, even if you move to the north, Tammy, slightly, you see the two driveways on 13013,
Yes.
where instead of, right now where that tower sits, you've got people's front windows are looking at it, versus if you shift it, 70 feet, can you find a spot that, and again, the part that I struggle with here is that I'm looking at this from a GIS map, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks to me like it's in front of somebody's picture window, but maybe when you're on the street and the street view, maybe it doesn't look like that, I don't know, but, and maybe that's something we could look at moving forward, whether we can get actual, like, hey, look, some of the pictures that you took on Timber Springs, where we can actually see if it was placed here from the viewpoint of the homeowner,
Yep.
this is what they're gonna get. 'Cause it's kinda hard at this level
Yeah.
to really
Trying to find
identify
a
it.
Google map.
And in these two locations where the driveways are close to each other, I'd have to look to see once if mailboxes or anything like
Yeah,
that are
right,
also in the
I
way.
could see that, or even line of sight as people back out, if it's right there, that might be challenging. So, the 12956, I'm inclined to table that and explore for a move there. You said the other two we were looking at are 8241 and 13013?
8241 is more of a master plan approval.
Okay,
8163, they have submitted for a permit, so that is up for approval.
so I guess my motion would be to approve 8163, table 12956 and 13013, with the recommendations for 12956 to be explored to move. 13013, I'd just like more information. So if we could get a street level view of what that looks like, then, and if there's other opportunities to explore those, but at the very least come back with a better view so we could see what the impact is on the home. That'd be my thought
Absolutely.
process. I don't know, Jason and Jeff, what your
Yeah.
thoughts are?
Concur.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Google Map street view. It seems very heavily treed, landscape treed, not natural timber. Then there is some utility
Oh,
in
issue.
that area too, so maybe that's one thing, but just
Yeah.
not clear to me.
Okay. So
Yes.
I've made that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Next is request to approve residential waiver to install small cell facilities in Morgan Meadows.
Again, Tammy Houston, Assistant Engineer. Before you is a permit for consideration for Morgan Meadows. Again, they do not have an HOA, but we did send letters out to residents within 200 feet of this proposed location. This will be on the south corner of Royal Drive and I think it's Meadows Lane. Verizon is aware that there is potential for this area to develop, that they would have to relocate at their expense in the future if that does happen. If it is approved today, the city would request that it be installed without a light.
Why would we not consider the new Scanell project, the multifamily, their parking lot, just down the street from here?
They are aware of that development. They have chosen not to.
Because it's literally,
Propose
I
that
mean,
location.
it can't be more than 100 feet, 200 feet, can it? I mean,
I
it goes all the way to
believe-
Meadowbrook Drive.
I believe it goes in that area. I tried to find a better aerial that showed that, but I could not find one that.
Yeah. And then the same thing goes for the other one. Up at the corner, you have the new development,
uh,
multifamily development up on the corner where there's gonna be a parking lot.
The one here on Lantern?
Yeah. That goes down to Appel Drive.
Yes.
So you're talking about,
Yeah, that one they have not actually submitted a permit for.
so they're only looking for 86.99?
Correct.
And what was the rationale for why Skanell's,
They just did not propose that area.
but we didn't
The
ask them about
studies
it?
that they have done, they go for high usage, and I guess since they are not actually there yet at the time of their study, they did not see them as a high user.
Well, I mean, my recommendation is to table this and tell them to look at the parking lot of Skanell. I mean, this is smack dab in a high-dense residential development / redevelopment area. And we have a commercial property with a parking lot that nobody would care if the tower's outside of. So that'd be before I guess I go there, is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item? Seeing none. Or Jason, Jeff, is there a second to that motion?
Makes sense to me. I'll second.
Second by Jason. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay. Request to approve residential waiver to install small cell facilities in Anderson Hall.
Tammy Houston, Assistant Engineer. Before you today is, there is actually one location in Anderson Hall that is up for consideration today. There are two proposed locations, one at 13849 that was originally approved back in April through the previous waiver process. The one up for consideration today is at 10702. Anderson Hall is opposed to any of these 5G structures being installed in their neighborhood at all. They had wished to move this location to 141st Street. Verizon stated that they would not be able to move it to 141st Street because there's a row of trees that kind of line 141st Street underneath the Duke power lines that would block the signal to their homes. They also would not be able to put it in the island here at the entrance because of the overhead power lines by Duke.
So on that note, I mean, I don't have a scale here, but the power lines are at the entrance to the road, right? As I look at this, I see the lines.
And they go east to west?
They go
Yeah,
east to west.
if you look on page 2, there's a zoomed-in picture that kind of shows it a little bit more. There's an existing light pole that is right here at the corner, or at the edge of the island, that the HOA had asked that be replaced with the 5G structure, but because of the height of the lines, Verizon would not be able to put that at that location to be able to maintain the separation from the Duke lines.
Okay. So why can't they put another pole farther back in the island? I mean, Duke's easement can't be 250 feet.
Oh, but it is a heavily treed island. So they would have to go in and trim trees in order to be able to place it in the island.
And that's something Verizon's not willing to do, or something the neighborhood wouldn't want to have happen?
Verizon does not want to go in and trim trees because they do not want to upset any of the any HOA or residents for any neighborhood.
Okay. All right, is there anyone here from Anderson Hall that would like to speak? Questions, comments, thoughts from the board?
I mean, I think we've evaluated this one, and I remember that, pushing back to try to get it out to 141st Street. I mean, that said, the location of 10702 is very consistent with what we've approved in the past. terms of, where location-wise. So I understand the desire to get into the island, that would be preferable, but I do understand the tree issue there in terms of doesn't appear to be any empty space on the end of the island. So I'm accepting of this location.
So can I take that as a motion, Jeff?
Yes.
Is that a motion to approve, Jeff?
Yes, it is.
Is there a second?
Second.
And before we
And
vote on this,
this
just,
area here is a common area. It is not owned by this property, this block here, and there is a block here.
just
that
so
is
I'm
common
clear,
area.
Tammy, in the future, can you clarify with Verizon if there's a tree or a shrub in the way of a location, is that a policy of theirs that they won't take out a shrub or take out a tree? Because if that's the case, I mean, it significantly limits what we're gonna be able to do from a location perspective. Now, the neighborhood may say, we'd rather have the tower somewhere else than take out a shrub, but I'd just like to know whether Verizon's saying, no matter what, we're not gonna touch any kind of vegetation to do this.
Are they enabled to touch vegetation that's out of the right-of-way?
No, it'd have to be in the right of way, but
Okay,
if it's on private property, they wouldn't have the ability to do
Okay,
anything. But if
okay.
it was on,
yeah, okay,
in right of way, they'd be able to
yeah,
do it.
okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next and final neighborhood for consideration is a request to approve residential waiver to install small cell facilities in Berkeley Grove. Tammy?
All right, Tammy Houston, Assistant Engineer. Berkeley Grove, there are six locations up for consideration today. We met with the HOA on a Teams call back in the beginning of September to discuss these 6 locations. All of the HOA members on the call were against having any of these 5G within the neighborhood itself. They requested all of them be moved out to the Nickel Plate Trail, Hague Road, or 106th Street. Verizon stated that they would not be able to move them outside of the neighborhood because that takes away their coverage objective of covering the neighborhood itself. So on the call itself, we were able to discuss 3 locations. We were able to discuss 7555 Meadow Ridge Drive. That is, the original location was shown on Meadows Drive, or I'm sorry, Meadow Ridge Drive. During the call, it was clarified that the location is actually to be at the intersection to the north there. The HOA had asked it to be moved to the entrance, kind of to the island area, more on Hague Road. Verizon said they would not be able to do that because it would take away coverage from the neighborhood and also impact the 2 poles that are on Hague Road. Another location that was discussed in the meeting was 10738. The HOA had asked it to be moved to the pond side of Briarstone Lane. The original location was was at that corner of Briarstone Lane and Meadow Ridge Drive. Verizon was not able to move it directly across the street because if you can see on page 2, there are actually, it's kind of actually hard to kind of see, there are wooden posts between the sidewalk and the roadway to help prevent cars from going into the pond. So Verizon was not able to get the pole placed in between those posts. So they proposed to be on the south end of those posts because they were not able to move it to this side of the intersection because there's an existing stop sign. And if they moved it to the north end, this tree cluster would
Why don't we,
And to the north
for the
would-
sake of expediency and maybe efficiency, let's take each one of these one at a time to go through this, because if
Okay.
we go through the whole review, then we're gonna have to come back to each one. So let's start here at 10738. Is there anyone here from Berkeley Grove regarding this specific site that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am. Come on up. If you could just come up here and state your name and address, and then go ahead and share your comments.
My name is Amber Carmichael. My address is 7662 Meadow Ridge Drive. If you look at the top left corner of the photo, that's my house.
Okay.
With the white car?
The one next door to that, to the left.
Okay.
Okay.
Correct. So as I'm looking at this map, I see if there is a way to zoom out on this a little bit, is that possible to do? That right behind my house in Timber Springs, there's an additional tower. And, you know, I don't know what all the relevant factors are in terms of, if you can see that blue dot, correct, yes. So we're going to have towers on both sides of our home, and I'm wondering if there's any way that we can utilize the Timber Springs pole and get rid of the one at 10738.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Anyone else on this specific location? Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Morning, I'm Bob Barczewski. I'm the treasurer of the Berkeley Grove Homeowners Association. And the board has asked me to kind of make a statement regarding our position from Berkeley Grove. I'll just read that, and copies are available. Regarding the proposed installation of the 5G cell towers, the question regarding the streetlights on the towers is an open issue. Some residents favor the lights as perceived increase in safety, while others feel they are intrusive. This issue is open in Berkeley Grove. One issue that is not open, and that has universal support, is the feeling that of the residents that the Berkeley Grove residents do not want 5G cell towers of any kind installed within the boundaries of Berkeley Grove. The Berkeley Grove HOA Board has made a suggestion for the placement of these towers along Hay Road, along 106th Street, and along the Nickel Plate Trail, where the benefits of increased safety, lighting, and coverage could be combined. These suggestions were rejected by Verizon. It should be noted here that these suggestions were rejected by Verizon, not by the City of Fishers. The reason given was that the technology was not capable of covering the short distance between Hay Road and the Nickel Plate Trail and could be compromised by leaves on the trees. It is our position that technology not able to travel this short distance and that can be compromised by the leaves on the trees is technology woefully underdeveloped and is in its infancy. Give us a technology that is mature, productive, and non-intrusive on the aesthetics of its surroundings, and we will support it. The residents of Berkeley Grove have worked for 30 years to establish and maintain the aesthetics of the area, both on their property and that of the easements, in order to ensure Berkeley Grove is a viable and desirable place to live and raise a family. This 30-year effort is destroyed in an instant with the introduction of these towers. We have been given no information by Verizon regarding the benefits to the individual homeowners versus the ruining of the aesthetics of their property, nor have we been given information on the profitability to Verizon relative to this destruction. Let us be clear, we are not anti-5G, nor are we anti-Verizon. We are, however, 100% against the installation of this inadequate technology and its incongruous 39-foot towers. Give us viable technology with an adequate support system that does not ruin its area of coverage, and we will support it. Until that is possible, we are asking the City of Fishers to table all activity relative to issuance of the variance necessary to proceed with these installations. Additional information should be made available to the affected homeowners where these towers are proposed and to all Fishers residents, illustrating the actual benefits to individuals versus the impact of the aesthetics on our neighborhoods. Citizens' feedback, not Verizon feedback, should influence the variance decisions. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Just point of clarification, so we all understand a little bit of what Chris mentioned earlier. Under federal law, the City of Fishers does not enjoy the authority to deny it just based on the fact that people do not want to see these in their neighborhoods. Totally understand it, appreciate it, fought it at the state legislature to the best of my ability to try to give residents a voice. But unfortunately, under federal preemption, the only thing we consider is if there is an undue burden on the individual resident, and those are the things that we have to consider. So for each one of these, what you will find is we have to look at the specifics of each particular location and identify whether there's an undue burden or hardship on a particular property owner. And those are the things that we have to consider. Full well understanding and appreciating the fact that there are several residents out there in our community that do not want to see these in general, don't believe in the safety or efficacy of these particular towers. But as our city attorney will share with you, federal government prohibits us from being able to make decisions based on that rationale as we move forward, and would be likely challenged in court if we were to do so. So, Bob, go ahead.
This statement that I read was basically to ensure that our position in Berkeley Grove is on record, and that we will support 5G technology,
Yeah.
we'll support whatever, if in fact it can be done in a less intrusive manner. There is no, and I've talked to homeowner or real estate agents, no one will say that that tower is a selling plus for their area. I mean, those real estate agents will grab one in a minute if it's a way to sell a house easier. This isn't it. And technology that won't go from Hague Road to NPT. I mean, come on, Scott, you know it's a lot. We can crawl on our hands and knees that far, and this stuff can't do it. Trees get in. What are we going to do when the trees grow? Cut down the towers?
Understood.
Probably cut down the trees. This is good idea, but it's in its infancy and it ain't good enough to put in.
I appreciate those sentiments, Bob. And it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. I was wondering what you were up to. Yeah. So as we go back to these individual locations, I have some real questions about the move of 10738. It appears we take it from the side intersection to smack in front of someone's home. And that, again, if I'm looking at this correctly, Tammy, we take it from the corner in the blue dot over to the yellow dot, and from what I can see, again, that looks like we're dropping it right, smack in front of those people's picture window.
Yes.
Yeah, and the original request on the call was to move it to just the pond side.
Yeah.
So Verizon took that request after the call and looked into it a little further, and they were able to move it. However, because of those wooden posts for the barrier for cars not to run into the pond, they're not able to fit between the posts in order to be able to fit their structure in there. So they had suggested to move it to the south of those posts. So it would still be on the pond side. But yes, it would, the location that they're proposing would be in front of that home.
But we had.
Yeah, Bob? Yeah, I don't know, Jason, I don't know, are those, they're not in there from our perspective in the right of way, are they?
Yeah, we would require that due to the
Pond.
from the pond.
Okay.
So, we could look at,
Could we put the posts on the other side of the trail if we got an easement from the,
I don't know if that would be something, if it's an easement, then it wouldn't go through our right-of-way permit process. We can definitely go back and look at this location in more detail to see if there's an option to open the guardrail section up.
What if the HOA sponsored replacing it with their own funds on their property side? So it's not city funds, it's not city right-of-way, but it still meets the objective of protecting a vehicle from going into the retention pond.
We could explore that and even have conversations with Verizon to see if maybe even at their expense to replace the guardrail on the backside of the sidewalk.
you have an open cut for a path, for a ramp that goes through the fence.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is whether you could have a break in the fence for their pole. If we can have a pedestrian path through there, I'm not sure I understand why you can't have a break for a pole, because honestly, that's the best location for this neighborhood, is not in front of this, whoever's home this is, their picture window. You could put it right at the T intersection and, you know,
But
and depending upon, Bob, to your point, depending upon whether people wanted to light that intersection or not, I don't know, but I mean, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, but she made a comment about even utilizing the Timber Springs Drive. I'm
Yeah, we
trying to-
denied that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but I think that's the one we just denied because of the curve.
Right. Yes, ma'am. Let me look here.
Yeah,
It's probably not an
It'd be on
answer.
my scope.
We can't answer that question, but we can ask Verizon.
That they are requesting to move the 755 to the
Yeah.
intersection.
We just denied it.
we don't know.
We don't know. It's up to them to figure out if they want to try to find another location or not. My guess is they won't, they'll just move on, potentially, or they may try to come back with another location. I don't know. So for us to be consistent, to be honest with you, 755, where they moved it to the intersection, is consistent with what we've approved in other
Yes.
neighborhoods. 10738, I would not be supportive of the current revised location. It drops it right in front of someone's home. And I also think there's a creative solution there that takes it away from the side of the home next to you and puts it right at the T intersection potentially, if we just work through that guardrail.
Yeah, we can take a
issue.
look at the separations of those wooden posts to see what the requirement is for safety and what they are currently separated at, to see if there's any that could be removed.
Okay.
Or even next to the ramp,
Yeah,
frankly.
yeah, right.
The sidewalk cut.
The other ones were 10695, is that correct, Tammy? In 10631?
They're all six up for consideration. Those two are the 16031. That location was asked to be moved more to the onto Willow Ridge, closer to the park area in this area. Verizon stated that the objective of this location is to serve Misty Hollow Lane and to the west here on Willow Ridge to the west. So they were not able to move it closer to the park area to be able to get service to Misty Hollow and to the west.
So, kind of goes in tandem with 10695.
Right.
So that, I don't understand Verizon's coverage map, but perhaps there can be a way to move that down to the park or that one closer to the other intersection on Tanglewood Court. I don't know if there's movement ability to accommodate some of these requests, because that seems pretty ideal there along that park area. And there's the
Agreed.
tree line, there's no trees besides on the ends, but they're going to contend with that anyways with 10631 for their argument. So,
Yeah, I agree, both of those should be reconsidered. I mean, they're trying to stick them right in people's
line
line
of
of
sight.
sight.
Yeah.
When you got land around that would certainly be better for a homeowner. And Bob, to your point, I think our effort here is to try to figure out how to avoid that scenario where someone's property value is adversely impacted by these tower locations, knowing that federal law won't allow us to just deny them because we don't like them. We're trying to figure out how we can leverage our limited local authority to create a scenario where we have the least impact on the individual resident. And so we literally spend an hour to an hour and a half every one of these meetings now trying to figure out how we can push these things around so they don't adversely impact residents. It's like the least fun job in the city right now is trying to figure this out. Yeah, right. So I'm in agreement, Jason, that I think those two should be tabled and given further consideration of that whole backbone where the parks are.
Yeah.
If there's an opportunity there, I think that's the appropriate thing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak on 10631 or 10695? Okay. So then we move on to, I assume, 10844 and 7748. Is that correct, Tammy?
Yes, those are the other two. 7748, Heather Lane. That one is close to an intersection. They were not able to move it to the exact intersection because there is an existing hydrant that is on that corner. They were also not able to move it to the south side of Heather Lane because there's a stop sign there, and it would impact the view of the stop sign. And then if they moved it to the other side of Thistle Ridge, that would be directly in front of a home in that area.
What was that?
No, that's not the right location. It's the last one.
Yeah, I was looking at this on Google Street View, and I wanted to drive over there this morning, but time escaped me before the meeting. So, I was looking at it, how is there a way to even move it further to the west? So, it's not in the purview of some of these homes, and then, because Google Drive wasn't really clear to the 7748.
So we're talking about 7748.
Is that correct, Tammy? 7748 we're speaking about?
That's the
Yeah.
one we're speaking of.
And then,
So this one,
Keep going, one more.
so it's not even at the corner.
It is not at the corner because there is a hydrant located
Right,
in
so
that,
it's
at
like-
that corner.
And I couldn't tell because it's smack in front of a house, but the one to the south is on the side, but I couldn't tell if that was a side to the north or.
I actually
or
thought on this
window.
one, Jason, if you're better off moving it further away from the intersection and getting
Yeah,
to
to
that
the left.
backyard.
Yeah. Is
So,
that what you mean to the
yeah,
left?
to
Yeah,
the
that's what I
left.
was, that's what I was trying to look.
So
As
Tammy, I don't
well.
know if there's an opportunity to shift it.
Yeah, that's where I was thinking. That's why I wanted to drive by.
Don't view shit from homeowner, you got a backyard, somewhere in here.
On the property line?
Yeah, because this one you still got,
Yeah,
these folks are gonna see it, these folks are gonna see it, these folks from the side of their home, but if you put it here, these folks don't see it because the garage, these have trees here, you got a backyard here, it seems like it's better shifted that way. And I can't imagine 50 feet this way is gonna, yeah, I don't know. Well,
that's why I was trying to.
it seems rational and reasonable for them to consider that. So let's. The
Yeah,
other
it
way,
would be
push it back further,
in this area here.
I saw there's a privacy fence for
yeah,
Street View, but I couldn't tell.
to the left, to get it away from anybody's windows.
So it'd be halfway between the two intersections on the north side.
Not to the intersection because.
Yeah, halfway between the two intersections.
This point, yeah, right.
Because it's not, this is a side this was siding too, but I wanted to see no windows.
So it'd be like mid-block.
Yeah.
Let's try to table that one as well and see if there's an opportunity.
To move to the left. I think that's to the west, isn't it?
Yes, it's to the west.
West.
And let's go back to the other one.
10884.
10844, that is on the, to the entrance of a cul-de-sac. Keep going.
Yeah, that's a rough one. So, if I may, I was looking at, that's another reason I wanted to drive it, like, that one's just, there's not an island. It's in front of people's windows to the left, to the right. It's very dense, it seems, in that area. And it, depending upon what 7748 outcome, the opportunity to move it to the south, to that
It's that
corner
one,
of
I think.
Heather Lane, you know, all the way down to that corner where that intersection T is. But
Even
that's
there,
all-
even there you got,
But that's all relative. Now that we know this one was denied, we're 0738, it's almost, and I don't understand Verizon's coverage mapping and details related to that, but that would be something to consider. And can they readjust? Maybe,
I mean, honestly, your best case there, Jason, is to stick it,
yeah,
this home is faced towards here.
yeah.
You'd only be catching the side window of, or a little bit of window
Yeah.
here. If you were to stick it right there,
Yeah, or back here somewhere, or,
yeah,
but, you know, it's
yeah.
just, but I don't know how, if they shift things
Right.
around.
So what Jason and I are talking about here is,
That's the circle, move it down. Can you go to that overview, like the first one, the first photo, just of the whole neighborhood itself? Tammy?
I'll have to have the wizard behind the curtain do that.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, so. Because it seems a lot denser towards the circle, but then perhaps by the movement of one, you know, 44 down can eliminate some requirements of Timber Springs with that, compared to moving that to the south. I mean, it's all like a domino. You know, 7748 moves to the left more. There's just no good.
Yeah, the thought process with 10844 was the location that they're proposing is on the driveway side of a property line. I'd have to look to see once if there's a window on the south side of the home adjacent to them. So this is the driveway side. I'd have to look to see once where the window is on this home here, but then across from it is also a driveway.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm inclined to table this one without any particular directive. The impact on the residents there is just too adverse for,
The location refers to the, yeah, window setting and
right.
location and so forth, so,
So let's go through these
Yeah.
again so we make sure we're all on the same page, because we talked about quite a bit here. So to be consistent with our standards so far, we're in approval of the movement of 7555 to the intersection.
yes.
And we are so we're approving that one. We're recommending 10738 be tabled, and that we look to see if we can adjust the guardrail to allow for that to be not in someone's window.
Line of sight, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
The neighbor that lives on the corner where it was originally
Yep.
intended to be installed is the one who brought this to my attention. And English is not her first language, so she was not comfortable coming here today and speaking with you. And so I agreed that I would represent her.
Sure.
And initially, I wasn't particularly concerned with the safety aspects of it, but since I was going to be coming and speaking on her behalf, I did a little bit of research, and I just, for the record, wanted to comment that, according to an article called "We Have No Reason to Believe 5G is Safe," Scientific American states the latest cellular technology, 5G, will employ millimeter waves for the first time. Short-term exposure can have adverse physiological effects in the peripheral nervous system, the immune system, and the cardiovascular system. The research suggests that long-term exposure may pose health risks to the skin, e.g. melanoma, the eyes, e.g. ocular melanoma, and the testes, e.g. sterility. In addition, 5G will not replace 4G. It will accompany 4G for the near future and possibly over the long term. If there are synergistic effects from simultaneous exposures to multiple types of RFR, our overall risk of harm from RFR may increase substantially. Cancer is not the only risk, as there is considerable evidence that RFR causes neurological disorders and reproductive harm. So I just wanted to state again, if there's any way to move that tower away from the front of our homes, I know there are several other locations that are in question. If things can be adjusted so that we don't have to have it right on that corner, that would be very much appreciated.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And just to clarify for the legal folks in the room, under federal law, we're not allowed to consider considerations of safety, believe it or not, in regards to whether 5G is safe. We can look at line of sight safety issues, things of that nature, but I do appreciate your comments. And it is our intent to try to mitigate any undue burdens on the residents. So I appreciate that, and we will consider the things that we're allowed to under federal law. So 10738, we're in agreement that we're going to try to get away from the homes. We're going to try to get it near the guardrail.
Yes.
10695 and 10631 we are tabling, asking Verizon to identify and explore any opportunities to look at that park in the common area there along the way, Tammy. 10844, we're tabling with no specific direction other than we feel that location has too much of an undue burden on the residents for the value that is gained by having it there. And then 7748, we're tabling and asking to look if you can move it 50 feet to the west, whether there's an opportunity there. So I think that is our collective motion, if you will.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
So there's a motion by myself, second by Jason. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. For the folks here, Bob and crew, Tammy will continue to communicate with you as we go through this process, as we push back on Verizon and try to identify. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a resident of Burton Grove, and I came with interested in 7748.
Please step up. I apologize if you hadn't an opportunity. If you just state your name and address, appreciate it.
My name is Robin Borromeo, and I live at 10783 Thistle Ridge.
Okay.
I would be looking west towards where the tower is. The proposed homeowner that currently owns that, the house is pending right now. They've been vacant for 6 months, deciding whether they're going to relocate permanently to another location of the state. They did put it up for sale. It is pending. They haven't had the opportunity to put in, have any input. But I understand that, it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah. Well, we will table it so we have a couple more weeks. I don't know how soon that transaction or what people are considering there.
My other issue is that we have not, in Berkeley Grove, we have kind of an inactive homeowners group.
Yeah.
I received a notice from the city of Fishers because I'm within 200 feet
Yep.
of the pole. I also back up to the Nickel Plate Trail.
Yep.
I kind of feel like we've had enough changes and to have our homeowner association promote putting it along the Nickel Plate Trail where all of the Nickel Plate Trail homeowners would be affected, I think is an unfair assessment of the neighborhood as a whole. I have spoken to my neighbors on the north of me and in that area. Some are fine with 5G, others are not. I'm excited for a new phone with 5G. I don't want to look at a tower.
Yeah.
I understand, we all have to make accommodations, but I'm hoping that in the future, when you're communicating and having a homeowners association represent, 300 or so homeowners, you have 3 board members that are essentially making this decision. There were probably 10 households at our annual meeting. So we're not really disseminating the information about what's going on in the neighborhood to all the homeowners and having input. And I would hope that you would keep that in mind when you're giving us information.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I think the idea behind the letters to everyone within 200 feet is because of the federal government's laws and rules around this, an entire neighborhood saying whether they want or don't want these towers, believe it or not, is not a consideration that we can take into our decision-making process. What we can do is if there are individual homeowners who are directly impacted, we can hear those and try to identify solutions for those individuals, and that's why the people within 200 feet are being notified. As for the HOA and the nickel plate trail, what I would tell you is, and Chris could speak to this more articulately than I can, but Duke Energy has an easement all along the nickel plate trail that is highly restrictive in terms of what can be constructed there. And I can just tell you anecdotally, I would find it I would be very surprised if Duke Energy would allow any type of permanent structure, particularly 50 feet tall or 40 feet tall in that easement. I don't believe that would happen. Chris, I don't know.
No, I tend to agree with that.
So regardless of whether people suggested that or not, the nickel plate, regardless of what Verizon's saying, there's very little chance, and I'm candid to a fault, there's very little chance that Duke Energy would allow for an easement of any sort for that to occur. So I don't believe the nickel plate trail is a viable option for this type of location. But as you can see here, only one tower actually got approved today out of this group. So Verizon has a lot of work to do to come back here. Tammy will communicate with the folks involved to let you guys know what kind of progress we're making. The way that this works is it gets tabled, and then if there's progress made, you'll be at the top of the agenda for the next meeting so that you don't have to sit through 14 purchase items and 12 neighborhoods again. So the next meeting we have, those considerations will be there. They will be back on this agenda because if you recall what I said earlier about the shot clock, if we don't bring this back and take some formal action, these permits will be approved as stands based on federal law. So know that those other 5 are coming back, and they will continue to come back until there's a no or a yes. We can't table it indefinitely because they become approved. Yes, ma'am. Sure, yeah, absolutely. Come on up, ma'am. Yeah, sure.
I'm Catherine Azar. I live in Sunblest at 7751 Sunblest Boulevard. I am a little late to the party, evidently. A lot of work's been done when I wasn't paying attention. But I did get a letter from the city of Fishers about a tower being built within 200 feet of my house. And that did make me feel uncomfortable. The letter itself was kind of even more making me feel uncomfortable in the way the letter was written, which is why I've kept it. Okay. And it's kind of been on the back burner for me since I got it. But it talks about regarding safety of the 5G towers. It talks about the Federal Communication Commission and various other federal agencies, which I'm sure they got as many of them involved as possible, so they can spread the blame as wide as possible. But then, the issue is the letter from Fisher says to me is that all these agencies just maintain safety standards. I mean, well, of course they do, and so what, But the weight of I'm quoting from the letter. The weight of scientific evidence has not linked exposure to radio frequency energy from mobile devices with any known health problems. A cell phone tower is not a mobile device. So that little bit of information is completely irrelevant to the topic at hand. And I don't know how to protect my home from any exposure to anything that's being beamed at it from outside the home. I don't know what, I mean, I would like to know what the name of the equipment, whatever the device is, that measures whatever these towers are going to emit. Does anyone here know what that equipment is? Because I would like to get my hands on it, or borrow it, or rent it, and use it. I want every intersection in my neighborhood measured before this stuff is built. I want my house, I want it looked at, I want to know what my exposure is now. And if I am unable, and it seems no one here is able to prevent this stuff from being shoved down our throats, if we are going to have to deal with this, then I'd like to know what the baseline is. So I would like some assistance from whoever is willing or able to just help me get a measurement so we have a baseline.
So what I can tell you, ma'am, and I appreciate your comments, when it comes to the safety and efficacy of this technology.
You can't address that.
Correct, but what I was going to say is that we have resources that can point you in the direction of the FCC and other people who do regulate it and can provide you those results and studies that might be helpful in your consideration of the safety of these.
I wouldn't believe a word they said. I just want to establish a baseline.
Okay.
I want somebody or something, or hire somebody or whatever to measure my neighborhood. I'd like to set it up as an appointment. I would like to have a police officer come with us to be a witness that whatever results we get are bona fide and true. I'm not trying to fabricate anything.
Sure.
I'm not trying to screw around with anything, but I am concerned about this. And I'm not particularly angry, but I am concerned, and I don't even know how to address it. I'm upset, but I don't want to be unreasonable. I'm not particularly a fan of technology. I'd rather use two hammers, seriously. But
Yeah.
I don't want to live next to something that is going to compromise my health. If I could wrap my house up in aluminum foil, I would, and I wouldn't give a damn what the neighbors thought about the aesthetics of it. If that was something I felt like I needed to do to not get cancer, as a gift from Verizon.
So I think for the purposes of this conversation, after the meeting today, if you could provide your information to Tammy, we will provide you as many resources as we can around the safety of the technology, or how to go about feeling safer one way or another with the technology. This board, and what we will consider here, will be based on how do we have the least amount of impact and undue burden on the homeowner and the property values of that homeowner. And we will do our best that we can in regard to that within the confines of federal law.
I have been listening,
Yeah.
and I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
That seems to be very much a legitimate concern, and
Yes.
one that you are
But
addressing.
we will try to provide you other channels and other avenues
Okay.
for the considerations of that information.
I did have a couple other things I wanted to add, and
Sure.
that is, there's, excuse me for a minute, I got to get a piece of paper.
Sure.
I've been told that there are warning signs on these towers.
That is correct, there are warning signs.
Okay. Someone said to me that the sign is at the top of the tower. Can Fishers pass something to at least require
Chris,
that
you
the
wanna-
warning label is at eye level for an average height adult?
Tammy, you can chime in and correct me if I'm wrong, but on the construction documents that Verizon submits, and we've had this conversation at the board before, I think Board Member Lance had brought this up. The reason why the warning sign is at the very top is because the telecommunication industry believes at that height is where you're going to be directly exposed to the harmful effects or potential harmful effects of the pole. So in other words, it is notifying people, potentially poll workers, others, who are at the height that they may be exposing themselves to unwanted RF emissions, not that standing next to the pole is going to subject you to those harmful emissions.
Okay.
That's correct.
So will Fishers issue a set of binoculars to every resident so that we can read the warning sign?
So when you look at all the polls that are being submitted for our approval and what we did today, if you click on the resolutions and on the exhibits, there are a set of construction plans that will show you what is going on that specific pole, including that warning statement.
Okay. Would Fishers please issue a letter to the homeowners stating what the warning label says? And I understand what you are not able to do, but I'd like you to be more helpful to residents for what you are able to do. And what you are able to do is reproduce that warning label, send people the information. I don't expect you to do what you cannot do, but you could be more proactive in helping the citizens.
Ma'am,
do
another thing,
what
sorry
we
to
can
interrupt,
do.
but another thing that we've done, and our engineering team and our communications team have done a great job of putting together a website. I don't know if you've gone to our website where we've compiled a lot of the 5G information together there and provided a lot of Verizon's responses to that regarding safety concerns, construction, et cetera. So although the city may not be able to provide a lot of that information, to the mayor's point earlier, we are collecting resources who are more subject matter experts in this with regard to emissions, et cetera, and providing that information to the public.
Well,
Anything else, ma'am?
could someone tell me what COFEFE is?
What?
I was told that something called COFEFE is what is, does anybody know about this? Because I am just beginning to start learning.
No, I'm not familiar, but again,
It's
we'll
evidently
provide you
something.
as much resources as we can. Now, whether you believe in the validity of the sources, I can't speak to that.
Understood.
But any of the studies and any of the information that we can provide from our regulatory agencies, we will do that.
Well, it's really a pretty unsatisfactory situation all the way around, isn't it?
I understand.
I, for one, don't care about having Alexa in my house and all of the geeky gizmo things that this crap is going to do, but I sure as hell don't want to die from cancer because my neighbor wants to play with toys.
Understood. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
And ma'am, if I may, appreciate your comments, but I want to just state, we have some neighboring communities that didn't take the proactive approach that the city of Fishers did. Our friends to the south in Indianapolis, Marion County, they have no process put in place to remonstrate. Towers are just showing up at the whim of Verizon. So be very appreciative of the folks here in the city of Fishers, because they saw this coming almost 2 years ago and put these steps and plans in place to enable application process to take place. And if that hadn't happened, it would just shown up maybe right in front of your driveway. So
Maybe what we
really
could,
appreciate what the city has done on this behalf of the citizens of the community.
maybe we could round out this meeting by saying we all find ourselves in an unsatisfactory situation. But I do appreciate your comments. Please share your information with Tammy so that we can provide you the resources that we do have. And we'll go from there. So thank you, ma'am. With that, I'll close the public comment period of this conversation. We've gone through every agenda item, I believe. Is that correct, Chris? Okay, with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye, meeting adjourned.
Aye.